Anna sat rigid in the witness chair, her fingers clasped so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The courtroom smelled faintly of old wood and disinfectant, a scent she had come to associate with judgment. The faint hum of the ceiling fan did little to ease the heat of anxiety crawling up her neck. Every tick of the wall clock sliced through her thoughts, like a slow knife across the room. Her husband Daniel sat beside his mother, poised, confident, rehearsed. His lawyer, a tall man with a smooth, polished voice, spoke as though reading from a playbook, written long before Anna ever entered their lives. Each word was measured, each pause deliberate, painting her as a woman driven by emotion rather than truth. "Mrs. Anna Reynolds," the lawyer said, his tone coated with polite venom, "isn't it true that you often neglected your marital duties and prioritized your personal ambitions over your family's well-being?" The question struck her harder than she expected. Neglected, the word tasted bitter. For years she had cooked, cleaned, and smiled her way through exhaustion, working 2 jobs to support Daniel's failing business. While pretending everything was fine, she looked at him now, the man she once loved more than herself, and saw nothing but distance. A stranger wearing the mask of her past, she inhaled deeply, forcing steadiness into her trembling voice. "I never neglected anyone. I only tried to hold everything together when no one else would." The lawyer smirked, jotting something. On his pad behind him, Daniel's mother whispered into her son's ear, a sharp look of triumph crossing her face. Anna had once adored that woman, had tried to please her in 1,000 small ways. Flowers on her birthday, late-night calls to check on her health, visits filled with laughter and warmth. But kindness, she had learned, can sometimes be mistaken for weakness. The judge's gavel tapped lightly. "Please stick to direct questions and answers," he said wearily, Anna's lawyer. A soft-spoken woman named Grace nodded and rose. "Your Honor, my client has been subjected to continuous emotional and financial manipulation by the defendant and his family. We have evidence messages, financial transfers, and statements that will show how—" Daniel's lawyer interrupted smoothly. "Objection. Defamation without proof overruled," the judge said, glancing toward Anna. "Continue." Grace stepped closer to the stand, her tone calm but firm. "Anna, could you tell the court what happened the night you decided to leave the family home?" Anna's throat tightened. Images flickered like shards of glass. Voices raised, doors slammed. The metallic taste of fear that night had been her breaking point. "It was raining," she began softly. "I came home after work and found my suitcase in the hallway. Daniel said his mother didn't want me living there anymore. He said I made her uncomfortable. I asked why, and he said I wasn't what their family needed." The room fell silent. Only the sound of paper rustling broke the stillness. "I begged him to tell me what I had done wrong," Anna continued, her voice shaking. "He told me I was too opinionated, too ambitious, too loud, that I didn't know my place as a wife. And then his mother looked me in the eye and said, 'We'll strip you bare, Anna. You'll leave with nothing.'" Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Daniel's mother shifted in her seat. Her lips tightening, the judge raised an eyebrow. "Did she actually say those words?" "Yes," Anna whispered, tears welling. She said them with a smile. Grace nodded slowly. "And what did you do then?" "I left," Anna said simply, "with just one suitcase and the clothes I was wearing. I didn't even take my wedding ring." Her gaze dropped to her hands. They looked different now, stronger. Firmer back then, they had been soft, decorated with gold. Bangles that Daniel's mother had chosen for her wedding day. Those bangles were long gone, sold to pay rent. During the months when Daniel refused to support her, Grace handed a few documents to the judge. "Your Honor, these are the financial records, showing that my client's personal account was drained by the defendant 2 weeks before she left. The funds were transferred into his business account." Daniel's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Those funds were marital property. He argued funds earned from her salary. Grace countered, "Transferred without consent." The judge scanned the documents, expression unreadable. "I'll review this further," he said, setting them aside. Anna looked up then, and her eyes met Daniel's for a fleeting second. She saw something human flicker there. Perhaps guilt, perhaps shame. But it vanished as quickly as it came. He leaned close to his lawyer, whispering something, his jaw tightening. Anna's heartbeat slowed, she realized, with startling clarity, that she no longer feared him. The years of walking on eggshells, of apologizing for things she hadn't done, had ended the moment she walked into this courtroom. When the session broke for recess, murmurs filled the air. Journalists scribbled notes, spectators whispered judgments, But Anna remained seated, staring at the wooden table in front of her. Grace touched her shoulder. "You did well," she said gently. Anna managed a faint smile. "It doesn't feel like winning. It's not about winning." Grace replied, "It's about truth. And today you told it," as they walked out into the hallway. Daniel's mother brushed past them, her perfume heavy and sharp. She leaned in close to Anna's ear, her voice low and cold. "You think the truth will save you?" "The world always believes the man." Anna turned slowly, meeting her eyes. Maybe she said, "But I'm not the same woman who used to stay quiet." For the first time, the older woman faltered. Her expression cracked, the smug confidence flickering into uncertainty. Anna didn't wait for a reply. She walked toward the exit, sunlight streaming through the tall glass doors ahead. Outside, the city pulsed with life. Cars honking, people rushing rainwater. Glistening on the pavement, she took a deep breath. Feeling the air fill her lungs, it tasted like freedom, even if the battle wasn't over yet. In that moment, she made herself a promise. No matter how long the case dragged on, no matter how many lies were told, she would not break. She had already lived through the worst. The silence, the isolation, the slow erosion of her spirit. Everything after this was recovery, and somewhere deep inside she could almost hear it. A whisper, quiet but certain, rising above the noise of the city. "You're not the broken one, Anna. You're the one who finally stood up." The night after the courtroom, Anna couldn't sleep. The small apartment she had rented for herself felt both safe and stifling. She lay on the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the soft hum of the city outside. Rain pattered gently against the window, a lullaby she couldn't follow. The echoes of the day's events replayed relentlessly in her mind. The accusations, the whispered threats, the smirks of Daniel and his mother. Her phone buzzed intermittently, reminders from lawyers, concerned messages from friends. She ignored them all for the first time in months, or maybe years. She wanted to be alone. With her thoughts, she reached for a photo on her bedside table, one taken during a vacation years ago. She was standing barefoot on a sunlit beach, wind tossing her hair, laughter frozen in that instant. Daniel was beside her then, smiling genuinely, and it seemed as though nothing could touch them. Looking at it now, she realized how distant that world had become. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. She had loved once with all her heart, but love, she realized, could not exist. Where there was manipulation, control, and cruelty disguised as concern. Anna's mind raced with possibilities. She could stay, fight the legal battle for months, even years, and try to reclaim some semblance of normalcy. But she knew the truth even if she won. Her spirit had already been fractured by years of silent endurance. She deserved more than hollow victories. She deserved to breathe, to laugh, to exist on her own terms. By dawn, she made a decision. Packing was swift and efficient. She didn't take much, just essentials. A few clothes, her laptop, and the photograph she had held onto the night before. Her suitcase was light, almost symbolic, as though shedding material, weight could somehow lift the years of emotional burden she carried at the airport. She moved like someone walking into a new life. The check-in counters bustled with travelers, yet she felt a serene distance from all the chaos. She watched families argue over carry-ons, couples whisper sweet nothings, and business people rush past with urgent expressions. None of it touched her. She had her own destination, her own story to write now. When the plane doors closed and the engines roared to life, Anna pressed her forehead against the window and watched the city recede. Skyscraper streets, her old apartment, all shrinking beneath a layer of clouds with each passing mile. The suffocating weight of her past seemed to lift, replaced by a strange and thrilling sense of liberation. She closed her eyes, remembering the judge's gavel, Daniel's smirk, his mother's cold voice, and then she let it all go. She pictured the ocean, the vast, endless expanse she had dreamed about for years. The Maldives, a paradise of turquoise waters and endless skies, awaited her. It wasn't just a physical destination. It was the embodiment of a life she had always longed for, but never allowed herself to reach. When the plane leveled out, she opened her journal and began to write. Words poured out of her like a river finally released from a dam. She wrote about the court, the confrontation, the quiet moments of self-realization. She wrote about fear, but also about courage. The small, stubborn flame that had refused to die, even in the darkest nights. Hours passed, the sky shifting from soft dawn to bright day, and Anna felt the first real smile stretch across her face. In months, for the first time, She wasn't responding to anyone else's expectations. She wasn't apologizing for existing, she was simply being. When the plane finally touched down in the Maldives, the heat and scent of salt water wrapped around her. Like a welcome embrace, she stepped out barefoot onto the warm tarmac and felt grounded in a way she hadn't felt in years. Every sense tingled, the vivid blues and greens of the water, the cries of distant seabirds, the gentle lap of waves against the shore. It was overwhelming and beautiful all at once. Her hotel was modest, a small bungalow perched at the edge of the beach. But Anna didn't care about luxury. She cared about space to breathe, to think, to rediscover herself. She opened the sliding door to her balcony and let the sun kiss her skin. She thought of the life she had left behind, of the courtroom, battles still ahead of Daniel and his mother, and the cruel smiles they wore like armor. But she also realized something profound. She didn't need their approval, their validation, or their recognition. She only needed herself over the next days. Anna wandered the beaches, swam in crystalline waters, and watched the sunset in flames of orange and pink. She laughed softly at first, then more freely, feeling muscles she hadn't used in years relax. She met locals and travelers, each encounter reminding her of the world's vastness and the countless lives beyond her own struggles. One evening she sat on the sand, journal in hand, writing letters. She would never send letters to Daniel, to his mother, to herself. She wrote about pain, betrayal, hope, and renewal, and with each word, she felt a weight lifting, replaced by a clarity she had never known. That night she gazed at the stars, reflecting on how small and immense the world could feel, all at once, and she understood something essential. Freedom wasn't just the absence of control from others. Freedom was the reclamation of her own voice, her own choices, her own life in that moment. Anna made a silent vow, no matter what the future held. Courtroom battles, legal wrangling, even unexpected heartbreak. She would never again let fear dictate her life. She would live boldly, love deeply, and move forward with the courage that had brought her here. As the waves whispered against the shore, she closed her eyes and let the salt breeze fill her lungs. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Anna felt truly alive. The horizon glowed with the promise of new beginnings, and Anna smiled, knowing that she had finally found a place where she could be herself, untamed, unbroken, free.